So the talk title is how the Shadow DOM has got you covered. So it's not like has ever Shadow DOM has got you covered. No, it has got you covered. But the thing is, maybe you have never been self-aware on how the Shadow DOM is acting and how it has covered and how it has unconsciously, subconsciously, how it has solved a lot of problems for you. And so what we are going to do, we are going to see like how the Shadow DOM has got you covered. And after we find out how, with the self-awareness, we are going to, with that self-awareness, what do we do? When once the person is self-aware, we basically find the purpose, and with purpose, we'll build something. So enough philosophy for the tech talk. We'll straight away like start the talk. So yeah. By the way, hello everyone. My name is Mukul, and I work as a front-end engineer at Hubilo. And I'm usually easily convinced for indie music, board games, and travel. And I'm very difficult to convince if you suggest me to watch this specific series or this specific video. But yeah, trying to work on that as well. All right, moving on to the next. So what is Shadow DOM? What really is a Shadow DOM? So for a humans, it's a unconscious aspect. It just exists because of some elements around it. And in the same manner, we know the normal DOM. For the sake of this talk, we are going to call the normal DOM as a light DOM. And the demo, which is and the next part is Shadow DOM, which is because of the Shadow DOM and how it helps. So what is Shadow DOM? It's just a normal DOM tree with differences in how it behaves of how it behaves with respect to the rest of the DOM. So we are going to see the differences, of course, but yeah, it's just a normal DOM tree which resides inside our document object model only. So as you can see there, you can see that someone might have written this choose file button and no file chosen. Someone might have written the functionality of it, but what we do, we just call it input type file and we just use it. Boom. And we can now you can upload files, but someone might have written on how you can upload files and how you can upload files and how to access the file system and all of that. Well, another thing is you can see the placeholder that actually resides in the Shadow DOM. All right. So moving on. Okay. Moving on. All right. Maybe we should just look for the shadows. Okay. So I'll go here. I'll click on this. Git checkout looking for shadows. And there we go. Okay. I'll just open local. Oh man, should have come prepared. 5001. All right, sorry for the technical glitches. Okay, it's not working. Port 5004. Okay. Cool. All right. Oh, okay. So, all right. So as you can see here, I have here three components. Three basically elements here, built-in elements. One is text area, one is file chosen, and one is the dropdown. So as you can see, like when we code, we can directly easily use this using select options, using input files and text area. But let's just look at the shadows to these elements, where they really lie. So to look at the shadows, we need to click on this settings button in the Chrome, inspect, and we need to choose this, checkmark this, show user shadow DOM. And once we checkmark this, what we can do is, if we go in the body, if I go here and if I select this, you can see this. There is a text area, which is like doing nothing. But when I open the text area, there is something called as shadow root. And this will be only visible if you go in the settings and if you check that shadow DOM thing, right? And here you can see there is a complete DOM residing, and this specifically serves the purpose of placeholders. So as you can see, there are pseudo classes. You remember that there are pseudo select CSS selectors. You just go and change the color of the, what do we say, color of the placeholder. So who has defined it? It's basically written here, and this has its own style on its how it can be done. So you can you can override the styles of it, but you can never override the display block because it is given important inside the shadow DOM of it. So we are going to see the behavior of the styles and the JS APIs of the shadow DOM further. So I guess you have got the idea what are shadows, and this is specifically called as shadow root, right? Fine. We were looking for the shadows. Okay, now how it's different from the normal DOM? Like it was, we could see that it was it was just like the normal DOM. But what are some of the key differences? The differences differ from creation and usage of it, like how it's created and how it's used. The shadow DOM, we are going to look into it for sure. Another one of the main and beautiful features of the shadow DOM are encapsulation and composability. What is encapsulation? Basically, everything it can have everything of its own. So own styles, own CSS, the same thing, own JS, and of course own HTML elements. So yeah, so just like a React component, here how it can have this composability nature. Shadow DOM allows you to have a composability to the HTML elements. All right, now the last point you see, greater precedence than the light DOM. So basically, let's say you have something in the shadow DOM. Let's say you have a paragraph tag, and let's say you have in the paragraph tag, you have written something. But let's say you attach a shadow to it. How do we attach a shadow? We are just going to look into it. So let's say you have a shadow DOM for the paragraph tag. So shadow DOM takes a greater precedence by default in the browser. All right. Okay. But to be very honest, we just looked at the shadows of the built-in HTML elements, but not everyone has its own shadow. What are some of the elements that are shadow? Some are like input, text areas, content editables, video, audio. We see video and audio editors. There's a plus button, pause button. There is a seek bar. Someone has built it, and all that resides into the shadow DOM, of course, and select option. And there are so many more. There is a detail. There is an accordion that we see. There's so much that has built with the help of shadow DOM. All right, now how to create and use the shadow DOM. We सुन लिया बहुत shadow DOM के बारे में. Now let's just see how we can create the shadow DOM, right? So I'll just, while we are here looking for the shadows, what I will do, I have another branch checked out for you. Well, I'll just check out here, which is web components one. Now, while we are trying to create the shadow, we need to, we will soon learn about the web components and what are really web components and how we can leverage the real power of shadow DOM with the help of web components. Okay. All right. So as you can see here, I have the same three elements, which are built-in elements, but below that I have a button. You can see it. And how that button is created. So basically, here's the snippet on how you can basically attach, create a shadow DOM. So you can see there is a something called as shadow root. And with this, there is a head. So we are just creating a header element and we are attaching a shadow. This is a browser API, attach shadow, and which allows you to attach a shadow root to the HTML element, right? Now shadow, well, now you can just define HTML DOM and everything into it. So you can see that there is an inner HTML hello shadow DOM. But yeah, as you can see here, this is a button, right? So as you can see, I can when I hover it, it changes its color. It has its transition and element. It has its own this thing button title, and it has its own shadow border. Of course, the whole encapsulation thing I was talking about, right? And this whole button element is just one single tag. You can see that my button here. It's just my button, right? But let's see how to create and go about it. How to use about it. All right. So introducing web components. Now, what are web components? It's basically allows you to help you create your own custom elements. Now, in HTML, we have almost everything, right? We have every element that serve our purpose. But why web components then? Well, to have the encapsulation, to have the encapsulation and composability, we want more of it. We don't want to write repetitive code again and again. Let's say a navigation bar or a image transformation. You just pass the image link and somehow the image get transformed. You don't want to add the repetitive fundamental HTML elements, and you have to create something hybrid and use that. So you can use web components for that. So for every web component, so we're gonna in this session we're gonna look at the web components from the lens of Shadow DOM. Okay, so there are different ways to look at the web component. So but these are the fundamentals on how a web component is basically defined. So you can see there is something called as class. You need to create a class, and with that class which extends HTML element, and with that we have three. These are the three default elements for the web component. So basically, constructor is basically when you initialize the class, whenever this button is going to come in the DOM, what initial state you want, how you want your button to be looked at. So that is something we will define in the constructor. But there are two very interesting APIs for the Shadow DOM, which are connected callback and the disconnected callback. What are this connected and disconnected callback? Basically, now that we are in the React meetup, basically mounting and unmounting the component. So whenever the component gets mount, connected callback gets fired up, so you can do any actions you want. And whenever there is an unmount of that component, if say the element is removed from the DOM, you would see that callback fired. And this is the browser API again. It's custom elements.define. And with that, what really happens is like it in the window object, it basically defines that new HTML element, which is now here my cool button. All right. Now we'll go back to the code again. We'll go back to the code and we'll see all this in action. All right. So as you can see here, I have a class called as button. And here I have a window.custom elements where I have defined that button. So let's see what is happening in this class. I have defined a constructor. Now here, this in the web component refers to that HTML element only. So whatever you want to do with the HTML element, add listeners, add styles, define any functions in the class, or any sort of, it's like you have the element. That is what this refers to in the web component. Now here, this .attach shadow DOM, I've just attached the shadow to it, and here I have defined the inner HTML. So you can see that there is something called as initial state I've given, right? And with that initial state, I have given a complete state, width, height, display. I can have an element which can have its own display type, any sort of style, right? And I can also define this hover states as well. So this is the style part. It is completely encapsulated in that. And further, if I go down, you can see that there is a DOM defined, which is a div, and which has this initial state. And then further, I have given this name called as button to it. But as you can see here, I have given button. It's not really appearing. Instead, what name is appearing? Title is appearing when we look at the screen. So, but yeah, we will surely dive into it. Just keep that in mind for a while. So connected callback and disconnected callback, not really useful for now. But yeah, let's just be self-aware that we have these APIs when we want to mount and unmount the APIs. All right, and we have defined our button, and with that we have also called our button here, right? So now moving further, like we already checked out to web components. Cool. So we just looked at the encapsulation, which is scope DOM and scope styles. So if I go here, if I go on the my button thing, I have the shadow root here, right? I have the shadow root, and here you can see that I have styles, I have div completely into it encapsulated, right? And now that is what the scope DOM and scope styles are. Now moving on, composability. Now here's the question, like now that we are in the React meetup, how do we go about passing data into the component? Props, amazing. So in the same manner, we would want also our web component to be able to pass the data into it. Like that's where the components become powerful, to be able to use that component the way we want it. And that's where comes the slots. So slots are something, the APIs that allows us to pass the data into the web components. And whenever you define a slot, what it means is it can have a fallback content. Let's say you don't pass anything in the button, but still it can represent something, right? So now moving on. All right. So now here you can see, here I have, so let's just see. So as you can see here, in my encapsulated DOM, I have defined a tag called as slot. And in that slot, I have given a name called as title. So, but this is the fallback name. When I say when I don't pass anything, just say that it's a button. And in the same manner, if I go here, I'm declaring a span tag where I'm telling slot, hey, the slot is title. So by default, the HTML finds out and it puts that text into that slot. Cool, cool, cool. All right, all right. Now moving on. So you saw that. Let's just try to see if the uh, if my default fallback value works or not. So if I go here and if I go here, you can see the button shows up. You can see the button showed up because even if I go into the DOM, you can see there is nothing passed. So remember, shadow DOM takes the precedence what is present in there. But yeah, if there are slots, those slots will be assigned. So we will just add yeah, Control Z. We'll just keep it to here. Cool. So now if I go here and there we will see that my button has this shadow root and it has this slot. And if I click on this slot, it will refer me to this title, which is slot defined in the shadow root. So basically when the DOM is defined, it flattens that DOM when it's rendered. Cool. Now moving on. So event model, like whenever we event model makes adds basically soul to the HTML elements. And now let's talk about the event model of the shadow DOM. So the event model is basically exactly same as the light DOM. Like it has its own bubbling behavior. It has the same behavior like the light DOM has it. Now, with respect to the custom elements, you can of course define the custom elements if you're defining a separate HTML element. So that custom element has its own, if you say the compose flag to be false, if you say compose flag to be false, then then basically that it's not basically bubbled out the shadow DOM. So the event behavior is contained in the shadow DOM itself. All right, all right. Now, before I move, like now we have got to know enough about the web components, right? We have got the knowledge about the web components, right? But knowledge is not enough. Like tomato is a fruit, but is knowledge. So tomato is a fruit is knowledge. We all know that. But not putting that tomato on the pizza toppings is wisdom. Okay, maybe this is a biased opinion, but this wise man once told that knowledge is knowing that tomato is a fruit, and wisdom is not putting it in the fruit salad. So the idea is like the idea that now that we have learned, we have got to know about the shadow DOM, we have got the idea how's the event model, how it behaves. So let's just build something. Let's just see what are the use cases. Like I still understand like we all write code in day to day in React, and you're like, okay, how would I use this? How would I use this knowledge, and where would I apply this knowledge? So let's all get some wisdom together. All right, git checkout. Okay. I will try not to code and talk more, but yeah, before that. But before that, let's just see what we are going to build. So whenever I first tried access to the internet back then, when I was a kid, so whenever I used to read on the internet, I always felt like, okay, how do I find the meaning of this word? Okay, I'm reading something, I'm just not able to find the meaning. Okay, then Google came up with this meaning thing. I have to copy that word and paste that word in the Google and search for the meaning. But somehow I always felt like, what if I click on that word and the meaning appears then and there? All right, so and what if this is available on every single website? So I just don't have to worry about my vocabulary skills, and you can already judge my vocabulary skills by now. So all right, so here's what we are going to build. All right, so here's what we are going to build. So the moment we select a word, we want our word to have to be presented, of course, how to pronounce and the meaning of it. All right. All right. Also, this presentation doesn't promote betting. It's just for the example purposes. Cool. All right. Let's just dive into the build mode and let's just build something. So now you have the idea what is web component. You have the idea on what is something. What is something? How to define a shadow DOM and how to like attach a styles to it. all of that, now what we are going to build, we are going to build a web component called as meaningful. Like, so basically, whenever you click on the word, it will give you the meaning of that, right? So now here I have, you can see here I have a class component which is meaningful, which extends the HTML element, and how do I want my initial state to look like? So let's just define. So as you can see, I have attached the shadow. You can see the mode is open. What is closed mode? Please keep that in mind. We'll get to that. But yeah, we'll keep the mode open for now. Now defining shadow DOM. So I really wish I could code, but I don't want to get you bored while I code. So I have the references which I have attached. And this was the exact thing I was working last night. So as you can see here, I have a shadow.inner HTML, and I'll just paste it, and then we can dive in the code instead of like me coding and you just looking at it. All right. So as you can see here, we have a shadow root, we have an inner HTML. In that inner HTML, we have two classes, which is super and main. So super is basically the parent class, and main inside that the main class. Now if you now here I have given like styles to it. I've given a display, justify content, and if you see this, we want this appear to be anywhere on the web page. So basically what we want is, we want to have its position absolute, and it should represent, like, based on this position, we should be able to like find out like where exactly our word is, and below that we should show our this thing meaning. All right. So in the same manner, I have defined here, initially I'm keeping the opacity 0. I'm keeping the opacity 0 while we build it. It will have its own opacity. All right. So now inside my DOM, what is inside my DOM? It's inside my DOM. I have a class super. I have a class main, right? And it has its ID meaningful, and we'll see, because we, at the end of the day, we need to inject the meaning inside that DOM. But the thing is, we don't have to go out of the web component. We have to do inside the web component, so that the idea of encapsulation and composability is preserved. Cool. Now that we have okay, now that we have our styles, our component, we'll go to references, and what we'll do, what is the next step here? Define selection. All right. So here's something that is not the scope of the talk, but I'll just say it. So whenever we select a word on the web, so there is an API called as window.getSelection, which basically gives you a focus node of it, what node is selected, and in that node we have to find out like what is something I have selected, and that way we'll select the word out of it. And after that selection, if the selection exists, then only we will show the banner, that green banner you saw, and if the selection doesn't exist, then we won't show the banner. So that is something we will be doing now. But before that, we need to add a listener, right? So in browser, whenever you want to do something, we want to add a listener. So let me just add a listener to it. Before adding listener, I'll just paste this function so that all right, so that and we will dive into this function to build the application. Cool. All right. I have the function ready here, and then I will call the listener. So we will dive into that function quickly. But yeah, before that, let me just define a listener here. All right. So here, as you can see, I have defined a function, and I've added a listener here, which is add event listener. And also, as I said, we have this unmount component. We can remove the listener when we want it. So here, what I'm going to do, I'm going to quickly, okay, I'm going to define this function const All right. So we have a function called as handle selection change. Let's just quickly go through what is happening in that selection change. So basically, it just first takes the selected word. So whenever you click on it, as I said, it can have this focus node. It can have a text content, and with that text content, there's going to be a huge text content, right? On that focus node. So for that focus node, so window.selection also tells us where your range is, offset is the offset with respect to the characters. Let's say from 5 to 10. Okay, these many letters only are selected and rest are not. That is what so that is what we will find out. Selection.anchor offset, selection.focus offset. That's all. And we'll just select the shadow element here. So inside the shadow element, we have something called as meaningful, right? We have something called as meaningful. And here in this meaningful, we need to select this get element by ID, and we will just act upon it. You can see how beautifully this encapsulation exists, so that we can have a complete this, and we can act however we want and whatever we want to build. So here I've given an if condition where it says that if the selected word has a length, then we're going to define this function very soon, get word meaning. But before that, once we have the word, what we want exactly after having the word is to have the rects of it. When I say rects, what does it mean is basically how much it is from the top, how much it is from the left. So once we have that, then we'll be able to position our element to it, and that is what we are going to do. And then again, we have this great API from the web. Web is amazing, I'll tell you. So great API from the web, which is get bounding client rect, and get range at is the API that gives you a node. So whatever is selected, this basically gives you a node of it. Like, okay, this part is selected, and now based on this, tell me what are the rects are, top position and the left or right position. So based on that, once we have the rects of it, we will tell please be visible. We will change opacity to 1. We will change the top position. And here in the top position, you can see I've added window.scroll y. Why I've added? Because get bounding client rect is basically gives you the coordinates with respect to the viewport. Let's say you have scrolled like 1000 pixels, you have scrolled down, and then you are going to get the clients. It's not going to give you the top position from the 1000 point. Instead, it's going to give you only from the viewport. So it's great for the tooltips. But here we need to use another API, scroll y. So we will just add it how much you have scrolled, and then we will add from the viewport to it. Cool. Moving on. Okay, this is a snippet where when I was building this last night, I was facing this issue where I was clicking on the last word of the line or the first word of the line. So I was seeing that hindrance with respect to the page width and size was getting hindered. So I've just added some calculation, outer width, and just do that. All right. Else, if the selected word is not there, I'll set to visibility hidden and opacity to 0. All right. Okay, one of the important thing that is remaining is this thing, get word meaning. We need to define this, right? Okay. There's one mistake I have done, I think. So basically, when you define the functions, you can avoid defining those in constructor, and you can define it outside the constructor. Right? And here we will have one more API, which is get word. Now, okay, Control Z. I'll just copy from this references, get word meaning. Now, how to fetch the word meaning? It's so as you can see, before this word meaning, a huge shout out to an API called as free dictionary.dev. It's basically freely available on the internet, and this is the URL of it, dictionary API, and basically it allows you to take meanings of that word. So now get word meaning, it simply does nothing but does a fetch call, right? Does a fetch call. It first of all, it takes the inner HTML of ID meaningful, and it adds a loading state, because before we do a fetch call, let's add some loading. And after the fetch call is made, you can response.json, that same stuff we do every day. And then we have a data. And the moment we have a data here, what we are doing is we are assigning to that element, which is ID meaningful, and we are injecting an HTML to it. I completely get your point. Maybe you're thinking like this developer experience isn't good of writing inner HTML. Stay put in the presentation. We will get to that as well. Cool. So now that we have a word, you can see that we have defined a word, we have defined a phonetic, and we have defined the meanings, definition, and definition. So basically, this is just API response and adding this response to the HTML. Cool. And last step, well, basically the first step, custom elements dot define meaningful. And once we have added this, we have this whole component, which is a meaningful component. Wow, this component now finally web components have a meaning. So this meaningful component would allowed you to get the meaning. Let's see how, if that really works. Okay. There I go. There I refresh it. Do I have the meaningful component? Oh, nice. I have the whole shadow root of it. You can see there's a shadow and all that is defined. I'll just close this and let's just see, try. Wow, it just worked. So as you can see, whenever I select this word, it just adds insightful, processing insight. Wow, bulge. I don't know the meaning of it, bulge. Something sticking out from a surface. Interesting. So now that we have defined it, you can see the power of web components, how we can just add this, use this element, and yeah, I mean, we can just have an encapsulation around it. We're going to look at some more application, not just from the I side, not we're going to code it now. So as you can see, we can fetch the button and we can also fetch the phonetic as well. So that's all. Well, that's not really all. What we are going to do now, we're going to go one step further. I mean, this is the text written by me. I mean, not by me, just copied from the internet. But yeah, we would really want, what if I can have any web page? What if I can have any web page to have this encapsulation and to have and to have this thing available on the internet? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to copy this class component, which is meaningful. You can see this class, which I have defined. I've just coalesced it and I've just copied this and I'll just go in here. Okay. I'll just, okay. What we'll do, I'll just go here. I'll skip, press skip. I'll click here. I was experimenting this, to be very honest, so that you have the good understanding of all of it. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to just go Control-Shift-I, so that we can paste this custom element in the console and we can see how it can work. It's just a random website. The quote I said, remember, between knowledge and wisdom, it's basically the thesis of this code. I'm like, why that guy came up with that quote? But yeah, let's just try that out. Okay, Control-Shift-I. I have the console here. What I'm going to do, I'm going to just paste my whole code. You can see I've pasted this whole code here, and I'm just going to put that, and I've defined it. Okay, it's not working. You know why it's not working? Because in the body, we need to define that element. We don't have that element currently yet inside the element. So I'm going to just go here, edit, and I'm going to click and define our element called as meaningful. Enter. All right. Now that we have defined it, I'll just click here. Awesome. The moment I defined it, you can see that it has its own shadow DOM that has come. It has all these classes. Now the element is mounted here. So let's just see. Oh man, it worked. It worked on this website, where I have not written the code, but I still understand how to make it really functional, which can be a topic for another talk, by basically building a Chrome extension out of it. And whenever you have a Chrome extension, it would just inject whenever you open any website, and it would have the spelling checks and all the elements available to you. So you can see whenever I click on this, you can have this thing available here. So yeah, we just built a meaningful application, meaningful component. So yeah. So what else? Moving on to back to our presentation. Remember, I told you about the open mode of it. So the open mode basically allows you to have to act upon the shadow DOM. Whenever you write this dot shadow root, so basically it gives you the API, it gives you what is there in the shadow DOM. Whenever you keep the mode closed, basically you cannot do that. It can have its own sense of encapsulation, and you cannot allow JavaScript APIs to access that shadow DOM. But the thing is, this is not really a security feature, to be very honest, because one can easily dive into the DOM through the prototypes and have access to that if someone wants to. So never think that closed mode is a security feature. It just prevents JavaScript APIs to access the shadow DOM. So if you think about it, you can think about the application where we have like we have all done mistakes on finding the crossroads on the columns, which is CAPTCHA. Whenever we go there, you can see that application. Well, that application requires a lot of security. So, but that is something not built with the shadow DOM. Instead, if you want to build something secure and have composability, encapsulation, use iframes. That's how you can go about it. But don't treat the shadow DOM as a security way of encapsulating thing. It just encapsulates you so that you can reduce your effort on writing repeatable code, and also avoid people to have overriding directly, because main class can be so many and your shadow DOM main class is completely different from all those. All right, now more onto this. So as you can see, as I was writing everything in the inner HTML, and the reason I was doing that because I wanted to inject all of that into someone else's website, so that I can have so that I can just add that in the console, and I can just access to someone else's DOM and get the meanings out of it. Now the thing is, but you can avoid that. You can have a really good developer experience with the template tags in HTML. So there are template tags in HTML where in that template tag you can have your styles, you can have your JS, and you can call that template tags inside the shadow DOM. But that if something you're building that for the own application. Cool. Now next is like there are frameworks like Lit and Polymer. Basically, these are the frameworks made for web components to have a better DX and have some packages and wrapper around it. Let's say you want a date component directly, you want something like that. Lit and Polymer is something the frameworks can use. And if you want to read more about the shadow DOM, this is an amazing article, and which has also helped me to prepare for this talk, which is Shadow DOM V1. It was really great learning. The amount of insights this article has are amazing. So kind of a thank you slide as well to this article. All right, now you might think, why shadow DOM? What was the inspiration? So here's a riddle for you guys. Can you guess this? So what really inspired me is, so I'm a tool that polishes your text. With me, your writing will be perfect. Spelling errors and punctuation, I'll fix them all, whatever it takes. Can you guess? Amazing, Grammarly, amazing. Exactly. So if you think the whole core front end of the company Grammarly is built on the shadow DOMs, because they exactly acting on your code and on your thing. So one fine day I just like thought, okay, amazing what Grammarly is doing, and then ended up learning about the shadow DOM. And I'm so happy that today I could just let out all my learnings and in the React Bangalore meetup. So thanks to Kiran as well. All right. So that's how the shadow DOM has got you covered. Thank you, everyone. If you have any questions, please do ask. All right. So what I'll do, I'll just escape it. So you can, if you want to scan, you can scan this. So you can connect with me, or you can just find me on the LinkedIn, or you can just bento.me Mukular, or you can head to link. So yeah. Thank you so much for listening that talk. It was a great experience giving this talk. If you have any questions, please do ask.